The crystal towers of Zephyria Prime stretched toward 3 suns, each one casting different colored shadows across the vast meeting hall that covered half a continent. Commander Valtar of the Kithra species clicked her mandibles nervously as she watched thousands of alien delegates taking their places in the amphitheater. Her insect-like body trembled slightly as she realized this was the biggest gathering in galactic history. The air buzzed with translator devices, working overtime to convert hundreds of different languages into something everyone could understand. Veltar could smell the sulfur breath of the rock-dwelling granite, folk mixing with the sweet flower scent that the plant-like Verdani gave off when they were excited. Floating above them all, the energy beings called luminance pulsed with soft blue light that meant they were paying attention. At the center of the massive hall stood the ethereal overlord Nemnos, a being so old that some said he remembered when their galaxy was young. His transparent body flickered between solid and ghost-like as he prepared to speak. When Nemnos raised one of his 6 arms, every voice in the hall went quiet. Representatives of the 847 known intelligent species. Nemnos began, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the hall without being loud. We gather today for the most important meeting in our shared history. Today we must decide what to do about a problem that threatens everything we have built together. Veltar felt her 4 hearts beating faster. She had heard rumors about this meeting, but nobody had told her what the real problem was. Around her, other delegates leaned forward in their seats, or hovering spots, or whatever way their species preferred to rest. Dr. Quilvin, the Council's chief scientist, walked to the speaking platform. His people, the scholars, looked almost like humans except for their blue skin and a third eye in their foreheads that let them see energy patterns. He carried a glowing data pad that projected images into the air above him. "Friends and colleagues," Dr. Quilvin said, his voice shaking slightly, "I must tell you about a species we have been watching for the past several thousand of their years. They call themselves humans, and they live in a small system they call Sol, around a yellow star in the outer arm of our galaxy." The image above him showed a blue and green planet covered in swirling white clouds. Veltar thought it looked rather pretty, but then the image changed to show the creatures that lived there. They stood on 2 legs like many species did, had 2 arms, and their faces had 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth. They looked normal enough to her. "At first glance," Dr. Quilvin continued, "these humans seem like any other developing species. But the more we studied them, the more worried we became. Watch this." The images changed to show human cities full of tall buildings and flying machines. Then it showed their wars, with explosions and fire and destruction that made several delegates gasp. The next images showed humans exploring their own world, diving deep into oceans and climbing the highest mountains. "They have incredible curiosity," Dr. Quilvin explained. "They want to know about everything, even dangerous things. They take risks that would terrify most species. But that is not the worst part. More images appeared, showing human technology, advancing at an impossible speed. In just a few hundred years, they went from riding animals to flying through space. They built weapons that could destroy their whole planet, but they also built machines that could think and tools that could heal almost any injury. Their technology grows faster than any species we have ever seen," Dr. Quilvin said, his third eye glowing brighter with worry. "Most species take 50,000 years to go from discovering fire to traveling between stars. These humans might do it in less than 5,000 years. Some of our computers think they could do it in just 1,000 years." A deep rumbling sound came from the section where the Mountain Kings sat. One of the enormous rock creatures spoke in a voice like an earthquake. "Speed is not always dangerous, small blue one. Why should we fear creatures who learn quickly?" Dr. Quilvin's third eye turned purple, which meant he was about to share something that scared him. Because they do not think like us. Watch this recording from one of their information networks. The air above the platform now showed humans talking to each other through glowing screens. Veltar listened as the translator worked to change their words into something she could understand. The humans were discussing something they called science fiction, talking about meeting alien species and exploring the galaxy. But what made Veltar's mandibles click in surprise was how they talked about it. They were not afraid of meeting aliens. They were excited about it. They made up stories about becoming friends with strange creatures from other worlds. They dreamed about traveling to distant stars and learning about different ways of life. You see? Dr. Quilvin asked. Most young species are afraid of the unknown. They worry that aliens might hurt them or take their world away. But humans are different. They assume that meeting aliens would be wonderful. They think the universe is full of friends they have not met yet. That sounds nice, said a voice like singing crystal from the section where the harmony lived. Why is friendship a bad thing? Dr. Quilvin's third eye turned almost black with worry. Because they are also incredibly violent. They fight wars over small pieces of land. They kill each other over ideas and resources. They have weapons that could turn their beautiful planet into a dead rock. If they bring that violence to the galaxy, while also having their advanced technology and their fearless curiosity. He did not need to finish the sentence. Every delegate could imagine what might happen if a species with powerful weapons and no fear decided to explore the galaxy. Overlord, Nemnos floated higher above the platform. The question before us today is simple. Do we make contact with these humans and try to guide them toward peace? Do we destroy them before they become a threat, or do we find another solution? The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. The plant-like Verdani argued that all life was precious, and the humans deserved a chance to grow into better beings. The warlike Saber clan said that dangerous species should be eliminated before they could spread their violence. The wise teacher caste suggested that humans might be guided toward peace if they were contacted carefully, but it was the ancient ethereal overlord who suggested the solution that most delegates liked. We will build a barrier around their system, Nemnos announced. A quantum field that will make it impossible for them to detect our signals or travel beyond their own star. They will develop in isolation until they either destroy themselves or evolve beyond their violent nature. If they survive and become peaceful, we can contact them later. If they destroy themselves, the galaxy will be safe. The vote was not even close. 712 species voted for the barrier. Only 35 voted against it. The humans would be quarantined in their own system until they proved they were safe to meet. Dr. Quilvin worked with the best engineers from dozens of species to build the quantum barrier. It would be invisible to human technology and would make their system seem empty to any human ship that tried to leave. The barrier would also block any signals humans might send into space, so they would never know that the galaxy was full of intelligent life. Construction of the barrier took 2 years, and when it was finished, it completely surrounded the human solar system like an invisible wall. Ships carrying the most advanced sensors in the galaxy could barely detect it, so there was no chance that primitive human technology would notice it. The council members returned to their home worlds feeling satisfied that they had solved a dangerous problem. The humans would remain alone in their little system, never knowing that 847 other intelligent species existed just beyond their reach. What none of them noticed was that 3 small human objects had already passed beyond their future barrier years before it was built. The objects called Voyager 1, Voyager 2, and Pioneer 10 were tiny metal ships carrying messages from Earth. They moved slowly through the darkness between stars, but they carried something that would eventually change everything. On each ship was a golden record or plaque covered with pictures and sounds from Earth. the messages tried to explain what humans were like and where Earth could be found. The little ships also carried the most human thing of all: hope that someone out there would find them, understand them, and want to be friends. As the council delegates celebrated their wise decision to keep humanity isolated, those three small messengers continued their journey into the galaxy, carrying proof that humans were already reaching beyond their world with friendship instead of weapons. But it would be many years before anyone realized what that meant for the future. Dr. Elena Vasquez rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the readings from the Deep Space Monitoring Array for the 100th time that week. The numbers dancing across her screens made no sense according to everything humanity knew about physics. For months, strange quantum fluctuations had been appearing around the edges of their solar system, like ripples in invisible water that surrounded their entire neighborhood in space. Elena had been studying these readings for 3 years now, ever since the monitoring station on Pluto had detected the first unusual energy signatures. At first, she thought the equipment was broken, but every test showed that the instruments were working perfectly. The fluctuations were real, they were enormous, and they formed a pattern that looked almost like a sphere around their entire solar system. Today was different, though. At exactly 1437 Universal Time, every sensor in the array had registered the same impossible event. The quantum field that had been stable for years had flickered like a light bulb with a loose connection. For exactly 3 seconds, the readings had dropped to almost nothing, then returned to their normal mysterious levels. Elena picked up her communication device and called her research partner Dr. James Chun, who was working at the monitoring station near Jupiter. His face appeared on her screen, and she could see the same confused expression that she felt on her own face. "James, please tell me you saw that too," Elena said, pointing at her data screens behind her. "I saw it," James replied, shaking his head slowly. "Elena, I have been doing this work for 20 years, and I have never seen anything like this. It was like something huge just turned off for 3 seconds, then turned back on again." "What could cause a quantum field that big to just stop working?" Elena asked. "I have no idea," James said. "But Elena, there is something else. Right after the field flickered, I detected something new. There are energy signatures out there that were not there before. It is like the flickering revealed things that were hidden behind the field." Elena felt her heart beating faster. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Artificial ones," James said quietly. "Elena, I think there are structures out there, big ones. And I do not think they are natural." While Elena and James were trying to understand what they had discovered, something incredible was happening 4 light years away in the Proxima Centauri system. The automated probe called Resilience had been traveling toward the red dwarf star for 8 years, powered by humanity's most advanced ion drive and carrying experimental communication equipment. Captain Sarah Kim had launched Resilience from the Mars orbital station as part of humanity's first attempt to send a probe to another star system. The little ship was only the size of a small car, but it carried equipment that represented the best technology humanity could build. For years, Resilience had been sending regular reports back to Earth, using traditional radio signals that took over 4 years to make the journey. But today was special because Resilience was finally going to test its experimental faster-than-light communication system. The system was based on quantum entanglement theory that most scientists thought would never work in practice. The idea was simple but seemed impossible. If 2 particles were quantum entangled, changing one particle would instantly change the other one, no matter how far apart they were. If it worked, messages could travel instantly across any distance. Dr. Lisa Park sat in the communications center on Mars, watching her screens with nervous excitement. She had spent 10 years developing the quantum communication system, and today would prove whether her life's work was brilliant or completely wrong. Resilience. This is Mars Control. Lisa spoke into her microphone. Begin quantum communication test sequence. 4 light years away, the little probe received her message and activated its quantum transmitter. The device was barely larger than a book, but it contained technology that pushed the limits of human understanding. On Mars, Lisa watched her quantum receiver with growing amazement. Lights began blinking in patterns that meant the system was working. Not only was it working, but the signal was incredibly strong and clear. Mars Control, this is Resilience, came the voice from her speakers. Quantum communication system is online and functioning perfectly. But there is something you need to know. I am detecting massive artificial structures throughout this system. I am also detecting energy patterns that match the quantum fluctuations Earth has been monitoring. One thinks our solar system is surrounded by some kind of barrier, and that barrier is artificial. Lisa felt like the room was spinning around her. Resilience, please repeat that message. Mars Control, we are not alone, and someone has been keeping us isolated. The quantum fluctuations around Earth are natural phenomena. They are part of a constructed barrier that surrounds our entire solar system. But Mars Control, there is more. The barrier is failing. I can detect gaps in the energy field, and the gaps are getting bigger. Across human space, the news spread faster than anyone thought possible. A generation ship New Horizon had been traveling toward Alpha Centauri for 15 years. Carrying 50,000 colonists who hoped to build humanity's first settlement around another star. Captain Marcus Chun, James's brother, was reviewing supply reports when his communication officer brought him the message from Mars. Captain, you need to see this, Lieutenant Torres said, her face pale with shock. We just received a quantum communication burst from the Resilience probe. Sir, there are aliens out there, and they have been hiding us from the rest of the galaxy. Marcus read the message 3 times before he believed what it was saying. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, but they had never imagined that the universe was full of life that was deliberately avoiding them. How long until we reach Alpha Centauri? Marcus asked. Another 12 years at our current speed, sir, Torres replied. Not anymore, Marcus said, standing up from his command chair. If there is a barrier around our home system, and if that barrier is failing, then we need to find out what is on the other side of it. Plot a course back toward Earth, but aim for the edge of the solar system where the barrier should be weakest. Meanwhile, on Earth, Elena Vasquez was working frantically to understand what the Resilience probe had discovered. The quantum communication system meant that information could travel instantly between Earth and the probe, so scientists could study the alien structures in real time. What they found changed everything humanity thought about their place in the universe. The structures near Proxima Centauri were clearly artificial, but they were built on a scale that made human cities look like ant hills. Some of the structures were larger than Earth's moon, and they radiated energy in patterns that suggested incredibly advanced technology. More importantly, the structures were clearly designed to monitor and control space traffic. They were listening posts and barrier generators, positioned to detect any ships that might try to travel between star systems. Elena, James called from Jupiter, his voice tight with excitement and fear. I have been studying the barrier around our system more carefully. It is not just hiding us from the outside. It has been actively blocking our signals and redirecting our ships. What do you mean redirecting our ships? Elena asked. Remember the Icarus probe we sent toward Barnard's star 5 years ago? We lost contact with it and assumed it had a mechanical failure, but I think the barrier grabbed it and sent it back toward the outer planets. Elena, every deep space probe we have ever launched has probably been caught by this barrier and sent back without us knowing it. Elena felt anger growing in her chest. Someone has been keeping us prisoner in our own solar system. It gets worse, James continued. I have been analyzing the energy patterns, and I think I know how the barrier works. It bends space around our system so that any ship trying to leave just curves back toward home. But Elena, I think I can reverse the process. What do you mean? If the barrier bends space to keep us in, then we can use the barrier's own energy to bend space in the opposite direction. Instead of being trapped, we can use their prison as a catapult to launch ourselves farther and faster than we ever thought possible. Elena stared at her screens as James sent her his calculations. The math was complex, but the idea was simple. By using the alien barrier's energy in the right way, human ships could travel faster than light. The cage that was supposed to keep humanity trapped could become the key to reaching the stars. Within days, every human government and organization was working together on the same project. They would build ships that could use the alien barrier as a faster-than-light drive, and they would find out who had been keeping them isolated. But more than that, they would let the galaxy know that humanity was ready to join the larger universe, whether the aliens wanted them to or not. The barrier that was supposed to keep humans contained was about to become their path to freedom. Captain Sarah Kim gripped the arms of her command chair as the exploration ship Defiance prepared to make history. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with the focused intensity that came from knowing they were about to do something that had never been done before. Today, they would be the first humans to leave their solar system and enter the galaxy beyond. Engineering reports the barrier drive is ready, announced Lieutenant Commander Torres from her position at the engineering console. We have successfully reversed the quantum field polarity, and our calculations show we can use the alien barrier's energy to punch through to the other side. Sarah had volunteered to command this mission, knowing that she and her crew might not survive it. The barrier drive was untested technology based on theories that were only a few months old. But someone had to be first, and Sarah had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this. Navigation, set course for the weakest point in the barrier, Sarah ordered. Take us to the coordinates where the Voyager probes passed through. Defiance was humanity's most advanced ship, built specifically for this mission, using technology that pushed every limit they knew. The ship was sleek and fast, designed to survive in unknown space where anything might be waiting. Most importantly, it carried a message for whoever had built the barrier around Earth. As the ship approached the barrier, Sarah could see the strange distortions in space that marked where the alien field began. It looked like heat waves rising from hot pavement, except these waves were bending starlight and making distant stars appear to dance. Beginning barrier penetration sequence, reported the navigation officer. Activating barrier drive in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as its experimental drive system engaged, using the barrier's own energy to tear a hole in the quantum field. For a moment, Sarah feared that the drive would not work, and they would be trapped like every other human ship that had tried to leave the solar system. Then suddenly, they were through, and space looked different on the other side. The stars were the same, but now Sarah could see things that had been hidden before. Massive structures hung in the darkness between stars, clearly artificial and obviously built by intelligence far beyond anything humanity had achieved. "My God," whispered the science officer, staring at his screens. "Captain, I am detecting hundreds of artificial objects throughout this region of space. Some of them are larger than our moon." But Sarah's attention was focused on something much closer. Just a few light hours away from their position, her sensors had detected what was clearly a monitoring station. It was small compared to the massive structures farther away, but it was definitely watching their solar system. "That's our first stop," Sarah announced. "Set course for the monitoring station. It's time to introduce ourselves to our neighbors." Commander. Veltar was having a normal day at Listening Post 7 when when her sensors detected something that should have been impossible. The post was a small facility, home to only 50 Cathera soldiers, whose job was to monitor the quarantined human system and make sure nothing got in or out. Veltar had been stationed at the post for 8 years, and in all that time, nothing interesting had ever happened. The humans inside their barrier went about their lives completely unaware that they were being watched, and the barrier had never shown any signs of weakening. That was why the alarm that suddenly filled the station, with flashing red lights and warning sounds, made Veltar's mandibles click with confusion. "Commander," called sensor technician Ziktar from his position at the monitoring console, "I am detecting an impossible energy signature. There is a ship approaching our position from inside the quarantine zone." Veltar scuttled quickly to the main display screen, her 4 legs carrying her across the control room, faster than most species could run. What she saw there made all 4 of her hearts stop beating for a moment. A sleek ship with lines that were clearly artificial, but completely unfamiliar, was moving directly toward their station. The ship's energy signature matched the patterns they had been monitoring from the human system, but that was impossible because nothing could get through the barrier. "How did they get out?" Veltar asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, Commander," Ziktar replied, his own voice shaking with fear. "But that's not the worst part. Look at their drive system." Veltar studied the energy readings from the human ship and felt her mandibles begin to click uncontrollably. The ship was not just using some unknown technology to travel faster than light. It was using the barrier itself as a power source, turning their prison into an engine. "Contact the Galactic Council immediately," Veltar ordered. "Tell them the quarantine has been breached by the humans themselves, and they did it by weaponizing our own barrier technology." Before Ziktar could send the message, their communication system activated with an incoming transmission from the human ship. The voice that came through their speakers was calm and controlled, speaking in perfectly clear galactic standard language. "This is Captain Sarah Kim of the Earth Confederation vessel Defiance. We apologize for not making an appointment, but we were never given the opportunity to do so. We come in peace and request permission to speak with representatives of the galactic community." Veltar stared at the communication panel in shock. Not only had the humans escaped their quarantine, but they had learned galactic standards somehow and were being polite about their impossible escape. "Human ship Defiance," Veltar replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "You are in violation of quarantine protocols established by the Galactic Council. You must return to your system immediately." "Commander," came Captain Kim's voice, still perfectly calm, "we understand that you believe you have authority over our movements, but we respectfully disagree. We were never consulted about your quarantine, and we never agreed to it. We are here to change that situation." As Veltar tried to figure out how to respond to this impossible situation, her sensors detected something that made her realize the problem was much bigger than one escaped human ship. Hundreds of new energy signatures were appearing throughout the galaxy, all of them showing the same impossible technology that the Defiance was using. "Commander," Ziktar called out, his voice tight with panic, "I am detecting massive numbers of objects emerging from quantum fold space throughout Confederation territory. They all match human energy signatures. On Zephyria Prime, the crystal towers that house the Galactic Council are filled with the sound of emergency alarms for the first time in 10,000 years. In the great meeting hall where the Council had voted to quarantine humanity, delegates from 847 species gathered in emergency session as reports poured in from across the galaxy. The reports all said the same impossible thing. Human ships and probes were appearing simultaneously at strategic locations throughout Confederation space. They were not attacking or making demands. They were simply announcing their presence and broadcasting the same message in every known galactic language. Overlord Nemnos materialized at the center of the great hall, his ancient form flickering with agitation as he tried to understand what was happening. The quantum barrier around the human system was still intact and functioning perfectly. Yet somehow the humans had not only escaped, but had spread across the galaxy in a matter of hours. Dr. Quilvin approached the speaking platform, his blue skin pale with shock and his third eye blazing with confused energy patterns. "Overlords and delegates," he began, his voice shaking, "I have analyzed the human ships and their impossible technology. They have taken our quarantine barrier and turned it into a faster-than-light drive system. They used our own technology against us, but not as a weapon. They used it as a tool for exploration." The hall filled with sounds of confusion and fear as delegates realized what this meant. The species they had quarantined to protect the galaxy had not only escaped their prison, but had done so using methods that none of the galaxy's greatest scientists had ever imagined. "But that is not the most troubling part," Dr. Quilvin continued. "The humans are not threatening us or demanding anything. They are simply introducing themselves. Every probe, every ship, every message they have sent contains the same basic information. They are sharing their history, their culture, their art, and their science with anyone who wants to learn about them." A delegate from the Harmony species sang out in their crystal voice, "What do they want from us?" Dr. Quilvin's third eye turned a deep purple that meant he was deeply confused. "As far as I can determine, they want exactly what they have always wanted. They want to be friends. They want to explore the galaxy and meet new species and learn about different ways of life. The only thing that has changed is that now they refuse to accept that they cannot do these things." Throughout the galaxy, 1,000 human probes continued their broadcasts, each one carrying the same simple message that Captain Kim had delivered to Commander Veltar. "We know you met without us. When you are ready to meet with us, just ask nicely." The universe had tried to contain humanity, but humanity had broken free, not through violence or conquest, but through the same curiosity and determination that had worried the Council in the first place. Now the galaxy would have to decide whether to welcome these impossible visitors or try to stop them from exploring the stars they had always dreamed of reaching. Admiral Zhang Wei stood on the bridge of the flagship Perseverance as it held position at the edge of Zephyria Prime's solar system, watching the most beautiful and terrifying sight she had ever seen. Through the viewports, she could see the crystal towers of the galactic capital world stretching toward 3 different colored suns, while around her ship, 1,000 human vessels maintained perfect formation in the space between planets. The formation was not aggressive or threatening, but it was impossible to ignore. Every major world in Confederation space now had human ships nearby, all of them broadcasting the same patient message. "We are here, we are peaceful, and we would like to talk." Zhang had been chosen to lead this historic mission because of her reputation for diplomacy as much as her military skill. At 62 years old, she had spent her entire career preparing humanity for the day they would meet alien civilizations, though she had never imagined it would happen quite like this. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Lieutenant Park. "From her station, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They are requesting formal negotiations." Zhang smiled slightly. After 3 days of maintaining their positions around Confederation worlds, the aliens had finally decided to talk instead of demanding that humanity return to their quarantine. "Put them through, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the great meeting hall on Zephyria Prime. Zhang could see hundreds of different alien species gathered in their seats, all of them staring at her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to fear to barely controlled. Angered out at the center of the hall, the ancient ethereal overlord Nemnos materialized in his translucent form. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millions of years of galactic authority. Admiral Zhang of the human fleet, Nemnos began. The Galactic Council acknowledges your request for formal contact. However, your method of making this request has caused considerable concern throughout the Confederation. Your ships appeared without warning throughout our territory, using technology that our scientists cannot explain. Zhang had practiced this moment 1,000 times, but now that it was happening, she found herself speaking from the heart instead of from her prepared script. Overlord Nemnos, with respect, we tried the polite approach first. We sent messages into space for thousands of years, hoping someone would answer. We launched probes carrying information about our world and our people, hoping someone would find them and want to meet us. We did everything we could think of to make peaceful contact. Your probes were detected and catalogued, replied Dr. Quilvin, stepping forward from the group of council scientists. We chose not to respond because your species showed dangerous tendencies that made contact inadvisable. Dangerous tendencies, Zhang repeated, her voice carefully neutral. Doctor, may I ask what you consider dangerous about wanting to explore and make friends? Dr. Quilvin's third eye flashed with uncomfortable patterns. Your species is incredibly violent. Your history is filled with wars and destruction. Your technology advances at a rate that threatens galactic stability. Your curiosity leads you to experiment with forces that could destroy entire star systems. Zhang nodded slowly. Doctor, you are absolutely right about our history. We have fought wars, and we have made terrible mistakes. But may I point out that despite having weapons capable of destroying our own world, we chose not to use them? Despite having the technology to strip our planet bare, we chose to protect it instead. Despite discovering how to manipulate the quantum forces of your barrier, we chose to use that knowledge for exploration rather than conquest. A rumbling voice like an earthquake came from the section where the Mountain King sat. Small human. Admiral, your words are pretty, but actions speak louder than words. You invaded our territory with 1,000 ships. How is this not conquest? Zhang looked directly at the massive rock creature who had spoken. Honored Mountain King, if we had come to conquer, would we have announced ourselves so openly? Would? We have waited patiently for 3 days while you decided whether to talk to us. Would we have brought ships designed for exploration rather than destruction? She gestured toward the tactical display that showed the human fleet formation. Look at our ships, Mountain King. Every vessel carries scientific equipment, cultural databases, and communication arrays. Yes, they have defensive weapons, because we are not stupid enough to travel unarmed into unknown space. But compare our weapons to yours. Compare the size of our fleet to the forces you could bring against us. We are not here as conquerors. We are here as neighbors who are tired of being ignored. Commander Veltar, who had been given a place in the Great Hall because of her first contact with the human ship Defiance, clicked her mandibles nervously before speaking. Admiral Zhang, your technology should not exist. You have taken our quantum barrier technology and made it work in ways that our greatest scientists say are impossible. How can we trust a species that treats the laws of physics as mere suggestions? Zhang actually smiled at this question. Commander Veltar, that is exactly why you should trust us. We could have used your barrier technology to build weapons that would make your worst nightmares seem pleasant. Instead, we used it to build engines that let us explore the galaxy. We could have arrived in secret and learned everything about you before revealing ourselves. Instead, we announced our presence openly and asked politely for a meeting. But why? Asked a voice like singing crystal from the Harmony delegation. Why risk everything to contact species who clearly did not want to meet you? Why not stay safely in your own system? Zhang's expression became serious as she considered how to explain something that was fundamental to human nature. Because isolation is not safety, it is death. A species that stops exploring, stops learning, stops reaching for new horizons, will eventually stagnate and disappear. We refuse to accept that our story would end with us trapped in one small corner of the galaxy, never knowing what wonders existed beyond our reach. Overlord Nemnos floated higher above the assembly, his ancient form flickering with patterns that showed deep thought. Admiral Zhang, let us assume for the moment that your intentions are as peaceful as you claim. What exactly do you want from the Galactic Confederation? The same thing we have always wanted, Zhang replied simply. We want to be part of the galactic community. We want to trade with other species, learn from their knowledge, and share our own. We want to explore new worlds and make new friends. We want our children to grow up in a universe where they can travel to distant stars and meet beings whose thoughts and dreams are completely different from their own. And if we refuse? Asked Dr. Quilvin, his third eye glowing with suspicious energy. Zhang's smile never wavered. Then we will continue doing exactly what we are doing now. We will explore the galaxy on our own, learn what we can, and remain open to friendship with any species that decides they want to know us better. The only difference will be that the galaxy will have missed the opportunity to guide our development and share in our discoveries. The Great Hall fell silent as hundreds of species considered what the human admiral had said. Finally, it was Overlord Nemnos who spoke again, his voice carrying a tone that Zhang had not heard before. Admiral Zhang, I have lived for millions of years and have seen thousands of species rise and fall. In all that time, I have never encountered a species quite like yours. You were quarantined because we feared your potential for destruction. Yet you have turned our own barriers into tools for peaceful exploration. You were isolated because we thought you were too dangerous to contact, yet you have crossed the galaxy to offer friendship to the very beings who rejected you. Zhang waited, sensing that the ancient overlord was building towards something important. The Galactic Council will vote on whether to accept humanity as full members of the Confederation, Nemnos continued. But before that vote takes place, I want you to know that you have already accomplished something remarkable. You have reminded us why we formed this confederation in the first place. Not to control or contain, but to celebrate the incredible diversity of intelligent life. Our galaxy. The vote, when it came, was not unanimous. Some species still feared humanity's unpredictable nature and rapid technological development. But the majority recognized that a species capable of turning imprisonment into freedom and isolation into opportunity might have valuable perspectives to offer the galactic community. As Admiral Zhang watched the final vote tallies appear on the Great Hall's displays, she thought about the long journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From the first human who looked up at the stars and wondered what might be out there, to the brave crews who had volunteered to test untested technology, to the diplomats and scientists who had spent decades preparing for this day. Captain Sarah Kim's voice came through the communication system from the Defiance, which was still positioned near Commander Veltar's listening post. Admiral, the commander has invited me aboard her station for what she calls a proper first contact ceremony. She says the Kithera have a tradition of sharing food with new friends. Zhang laughed, feeling a weight she had carried for years finally lifting from her shoulders. Permission granted, Captain. And Sarah? Tell the commander the humans have a tradition, too. We bring gifts when we visit new friends for the first time. As the human fleet began the delicate process of integrating with galactic civilization, Zhang realized that the universe had not just gained 848 member species instead of 847. It had gained a species that would ensure the galaxy never stopped growing, never stopped exploring, and never stopped reaching for the impossible dreams that made existence meaningful. The 1,000 warnings that had flashed across alien skies had delivered their message. Humanity was no longer content to remain hidden in the shadows of space. and the universe would never be the same.